Welcome to Reigniting You, the show that explores a variety of topics and timely issues for making successful mid to late career transitions with a renewed sense of purpose and fulfillment for the next phase of your career and life, regardless of your age. Now, here's your host, Lisa Downs.
Welcome to Reigniting You, where we talk all things career transition for those age 40 plus. I'm Lisa Downs, Seattle-based career and retirement transition coach. So glad to be here with you today. And our producer, Eric. Hey, Eric, happy spring officially.
Good afternoon. Happy spring. Yeah, it couldn't come any sooner. I mean, I've been waiting for this is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it wasn't even that terrible of a winter weather-wise, but I was still ready for it.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, it's the fourth week of the month already, so that means it's time for our best job, worst job, first job episode. I'll be sharing listener stories, a few career tips, and some career news headlines on today's show. And we'll get started with all of that right after this quick break.
I'm Charlie McGee with FranNet. Historically, economic disruptions drive entrepreneurship, and Americans are opening new businesses at the fastest rate in a decade. If your corporate career path has taken a wrong turn and you've always dreamed of being your own boss in a successful business, I can probably help you. Text me at 360-489-2153. I've been involved with franchising for the last 30 years and have been matching clients with the right franchise fit since 2013. There's no fee to you for my services. I'm here to listen and help you find what you need. Text or call 360-489-2153. 360-489-2153 and visit frannet.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Lisa Downs, career and retirement transition coach and host of Reigniting You on KKNW. I guide age 40-plus professionals to gain clarity, a renewed sense of purpose, and a career transition plan within 90 days so you can lead a fulfilling life regardless of your age. No longer does change have to mean riding off into the proverbial sunset. Let's talk about what your next phase of life can look like. Visit yournewaspect.com or call me at 425-216-3015. That's 425-216-3015. New Aspect Coaching. Fresh perspectives for your career.
There's a reason they invented the internet. It's called 1150kknw.com.
Welcome back to Reigniting You, the show that focuses on all aspects of making mid to late career transitions. Thank you to our sponsor, Charlie McGee of FranNet, your franchise expert. And it's time for some recent career-related news that you may have gotten lost in the shuffle, that you may not have seen these last week or so, last few days. Microsoft is the first major Seattle area employer to announce a return to the office during the pandemic after a year of remote work, with about 57,000 employees in Redmond, Bellevue, and Seattle having the choice to work at the office starting next Monday, the 29th. Employees can also choose to continue to work from home or go with a hybrid model of splitting their time between the office and home. The company has capped the number of people allowed in shared spaces and will closely monitor badge-in data if capacity becomes an issue. Speaking of Microsoft, according to its recent Work Trend Index, a survey of 30,000 people from 31 countries, and using labor and productivity data, 41% are thinking of leaving their jobs, with 54% reporting they're overworked. Yet their managers indicate they think their employees are thriving by a whopping 61%, representing a pretty big disconnect there. A big increase in the time spent in meetings and feeling like there are no boundaries anymore are contributing factors to the burnout many employees are experiencing here during the pandemic. Intel is planning to spend $20 billion to launch 2 new computer chip factories in Arizona, according to its new CEO, Peter Gelsinger, with manufacturing remaining a core piece of its strategy. The company will also partner with IBM to develop new chip-making technology. A pandemic-fueled shortage of semiconductors for cars, appliances, and other products has highlighted the critical role chip factories play in supporting a variety of sectors in the economy. Intel says its new global foundry service will operate from the U.S. and Europe and will announce more new factory additions next year. For you movie buffs, on the heels of AMC Theaters announcing it will open this week, Cineworld, the parent company of Regal Cinemas, announced that it will reopen its cinemas in the U.S. in April. That will be toward the end of next week, April 2nd, thanks to many capacity restrictions expanding to 50%. When they shut down last year, about 45,000 employees in the States and Great Britain were affected. The reopening plans in the U.S. coincide with the releases of the movies Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat. Cineworld also made a deal with Warner Brothers recently, starting next year, to shorten the time theaters have to show movies before they're released to on-demand streaming services. Lastly, in a sign of optimism, workers are starting to buy real clothes again, replenishing their wardrobes with workwear. If not yet buying, consumers are at least browsing for work clothes again, as some retailers report increased traffic and sales. The market research firm NPD Group reports that more than half of U.S. consumers plan to buy apparel in the coming months, making it the top category for anticipated spending, with footwear and beauty products following closely behind. Interest in bright colors and patterns is on the rise as people look to ditch their pandemic looks of t-shirts, sweats, and pajama bottoms and drab colors. So maybe this means things are looking up a bit. So, Eric, a few interesting headlines today. What stands out to you from these stories?
Well, I got to say, I'm not excited about the extra traffic that's going to be on the roads with folks returning to Microsoft. Working on the east side here, I'll no doubt be mixed in with people trying to get to Redmond. So, but I mean, I can understand that some things actually are better off when you're in the office. So I'm sure some workers will be eager to return to those offices. But, not having had the chance to work from home, I kind of envied those people that have that option of being able to work from home. And it sounds like if they're able to keep it flexible where, some folks can come in and some folks can work from home, that I think that'll be a really good thing for morale. Hopefully, anyway, for the workforce, having that flexibility.
I think so, too. It's nice that they're giving the option. So I know for me, my husband, Chris, he's a Microsoftie. And so he's thinking of doing the hybrid. So going in maybe 2 or 3 days a week, working from home the other 2 or 3 days, just kind of taking it, we decided we're just going to take it week to week. Of course, a lot of it depends on how he wants to get to work. So he's still, I think, a bit reluctant to take the bus like he used to necessarily. And we just have one car. So we have to time it days when I don't need the car for him to drive. But we'll see, and see how he feels over time about commuting by the bus again. And because we're pretty close to the campus in Redmond where we live. But yeah, I think it's great that they provide that opportunity and that choice. And it'll be interesting to see other companies that follow suit.
And doesn't Microsoft actually provide their own buses too? So it's a little bit nicer than
they have transportation that will get you around campus and to their different office locations. But unless you're going to another Microsoft facility,
not quite
you
the
have
same
to
thing
use the
then.
public, the Sound Transit or Metro. So,
which are all good options.
Good. They're all great.
Maybe
but
a little overtaxed sometimes, but good options nonetheless. And, I am excited to go back to the movies eventually.
Yes.
But it's going to be, it's going to have to be something really good to get me into a theater, I think. I've been spoiled by all the good stuff popping up on streaming.
We've been very spoiled, and just being able to pull up whatever, whenever we feel like watching it, not have to put Chris refers to his jeans as his hard pants. So not having to put our hard pants and our hard clothes on to go to the movie theater, wearing our soft clothes. So.
Right.
Yeah. But it is interesting. It's good to see that apparel sales are brightening a bit, and some retail entities starting to have a bit of a turnaround. So that's
not
good
just
to see.
sweatpants.
Not just sweatpants, not just your T-shirts or your sweatshirts. So it is good to see that too. And so, some bright spots here, and, good to just kind of keep an eye on what's happening just in the workforce. And but I thought that surveys, Microsoft did, where they're really looking at work trends and starting to publicize a lot of their research around work trends. I always think it's hilarious when a lot of these surveys come out and you've got the employee group saying one thing, and then the manager, leadership group saying something completely different. And that seems to have happened here with this one about how employees are feeling and the possibility of leaving their current jobs. And
Right.
it's always just fascinating to me to see the disconnect in these types of things sometimes. And, the one group's like, oh, yeah, it's great. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. It's all rosy. And then you've got a good chunk, thinking the opposite.
Yeah,
So,
two sides to every story for
two
sure.
sides to every story. Yeah. But, so, some things are looking up. There's still the issues with pretty good size unemployment going on, making sure people are getting their unemployment benefits that they need. And today is Work Equity Day. So basically that means that it translates to that the length of time in a year that it takes for women to make the same amount as men.
Right.
And so right now it's, we're in late March, meaning that the average woman has to work an extra 2.5 months, really, compared to a man to make a similar amount of money, similar salary. So
shocking that in 2021,
shockingly bad in
that's still the
2021.
case.
So, there's still some things that aren't so great going on, but, I love focusing on the positive here, and it's just nice to get some positive news too and see a few of those good stories happening too, with everything else going on out there.
We can't forget the struggle, though, of
That's
course.
right.
That's
right.
We got to keep pushing forward on that. So maybe eventually Pay Equity Day will just be January 1st.
Yeah, hopefully so. One of these days.
I hope so.
Let's hope so. Well, thanks for that. And it's time for our next break. When we come back, I'll share some listener job stories with a few tips and preview what's coming up for next week's show.
Are you feeling challenged or frustrated without a plan for what's next in your career and life? Are you seeing writings on the wall for needing to make a mid to late career change and don't know how or what to do? Coach Lisa Downs of New Aspect Coaching can guide you to what's next, providing a fresh perspective and supporting you to create a clear and compelling vision for your future and a plan to move forward. Call Lisa at 425-216-3015. That's 425-216-3015. New Aspect Coaching. Fresh perspectives for your career.
This is Rob Bass, and I want you to tune in to Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller, the show that brings joy from pain, sunshine where it rains. Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller. And that's coming from me, Mr. It Takes Two, Rob Bass. Tune in.
Do what Rob Bass says. Take a listen to Don't Ask Me to Talk with Stacey Heller. That's me, Tuesdays from 3 to 4 on KKNW. To find out more information, check out my website, staceyconnects.com, or text DAMTT to 55678.
What's your story? Have you ever sat with that question and looked to your heart for the answer? It's time to explore the real you. Tune in Thursdays from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. for the brand new show, Story You, with Coach Debbie. Debbie and her guests have a mission to inspire and coach you to find your voice. If you need direction, Story You with Coach Debbie is for you. If you want to be an author, Story You with Coach Debbie is for you. Tune in Thursdays at 4 p.m. and be inspired.
I'm Nathan Mumm, and I'm the host of Tech Time Radio. Tech Time Radio is officially on KKNW from Saturdays from 4 to 5 p.m. You can listen to our show live. We are excited to also then rebroadcast our episodes on Thursday morning from 6 to 7 a.m. The hosts cover top tech stories with a funny spin.
That's good. So,
Hooked on Phonics worked for you, didn't it?
It did, just a little bit.
Grab your weekly technology without having to geek out.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We talk technology for the everyday common person.
Have a career transition related question or want to share your best or worst job story? Call 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496. Just leave a voicemail and we'll answer your question or share your story on a future show. Stay tuned for more Reigniting You with Lisa Downs.
Make us part of your daily routine. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Reigniting You, the show that discusses timely issues and topics about career transitions for Gen Xers and Boomers. I'm your host, Lisa Downs. We're continuing our episode that's focused on listeners' best, worst, or first job and career stories, a regular feature of the show the fourth week of each month. And I'm here with our producer, Eric. So, Eric, out of curiosity, we had a story here about movies, so potentially getting back to the movie theater. So when you think about movies that had something to do with work, what are some of your favorites?
Oh, that's a good question because there's quite a few good ones, I think. But probably Office Space off the top of my head is one of my favorites, you know. Anybody that's worked in an office can relate to some of the struggles in that movie for sure. It's very funny.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a great one. It's really become a classic,
Absolutely.
I think, over the years.
Yes.
And I still remember Gary Cole in that movie. You're going to have to come in on Saturday.
Yeah. And them beating this fax machine to death in a field, We've all had that piece of equipment that just won't do what you want it to do. And,
excellent.
Sticks around for way too long. So,
Yeah. I was thinking about Working Girl. That was a good one.
I hear
Melanie
good things
Griffith,
about that. I haven't seen it, but
Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver. That was a good one. Great soundtrack on it too. Lots of songs by Carly Simon. So
can't go
you're a
wrong
Carly
with that.
Simon fan. There we go. But that's
Nobody
a good
does
one.
it better.
That's right. Yeah. That was a good work-related movie. I saw today too that the actor George Segal passed away yesterday.
Yeah.
And he is 87, and he was in the movie Look Who's Talking.
Right.
And that was
among like a thousand
others, and always hilarious. And that movie was the first date of me and my husband. So we went and saw that back in 1989.
Wow.
Way back then, and that was our first date. So we went and saw that movie and dinner. So it's not totally work related, but he played Kirstie Alley's boss. And then the father of the talking baby, that, if I remember right, was voiced by Bruce Willis. So there we go.
And yet the relationship survived.
So that's
good. Well, he was,
that.
I believe he was on the workplace comedy called Just Shoot Me.
Yeah, he
on
was.
That as the boss in an office too of a magazine, I think
office
it was.
setting. Right. Yeah, magazine, and so he did so much different work, and was always great, I thought. So rest in peace, George Segal. There we go. So it's time now for some listener stories. Just a reminder that you can submit your best, worst, or first job story by emailing it to me at reignitingyou@gmail.com or leaving a recording of it for me over voicemail by calling 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496. I'll then share it live on the air at the end of April. So our first story is from Sandra, all the way in Dallas, who shares that her worst job was working as a telemarketer to sell magazine subscriptions because of the constant rejection, abuse, and people hanging up, often very loudly. She says it was pretty demoralizing for not much money, even though there were incentives to make more based on performance. But she hated making cold calls, but needed the work, and lasted for about a year. She wants us to know that it's not only those on the receiving end who hate telemarketing. So thank you, Sandra, for that. Yep, I cannot imagine doing that job. I would absolutely hate it. I'm impressed that you lasted a year. I don't think I could even last about 3 weeks and would probably run away screaming from that. But,
Same.
Yeah.
Sounds like hell on earth to
It
me.
does. It does. Total hell. Yeah, I couldn't handle it. Yeah, no way. No way. The next story is a first job one from Don in Burien, who shares that his was working as an usher for a local dinner theater when he was growing up back in Iowa, where he moved here from, taking tickets, handing out programs, and showing people to their seats. He says it was fun to practice his people skills that way, and he got to learn about the business side of things too, with all the details that needed to happen, in addition to getting to watch the shows for free and taking leftover food home. He eventually worked in the box office there too, and that helped grow his love of live events. So I would think that would be a pretty fun one.
Sounds kind of exciting.
Yeah, exciting. And
gig.
And hey, if you get to watch a lot of shows and don't have to pay for tickets for that, and you get probably some decent food to take home, save on some grocery bills.
Probably sick of popcorn to this day.
Probably.
Though, I would imagine.
Yeah, probably. But I thank you for that, Don. And I love that part about practicing your people skills and learning, different business skills while on the job. And I think especially at a young age, too, it's so important to practice, get exposure to other people and practice those interpersonal communication skills when you can and really hone that. And
right.
And especially dealing with if someone isn't happy, working with a customer who isn't necessarily thrilled. And, showing that empathy, listening, being able to help them with what the situation is to help resolve it. So all of that is great stuff to be able to learn as part of a first job. And in addition to the love of live events and love of the theater, and I can definitely relate to that. So that's excellent. And our best job story today comes from Denise in Boise, who shares that it was when she worked as an office administrator at a dental clinic. Because of the nature of the work and how stressful it could be, especially when patients were fearful, the staff made a point of taking time, whether between appointments or at the end of the day if there were no emergencies, to huddle up and share something they were grateful for or appreciative of that day, whether it was about a coworker or situation. And she says it made her leave work happier than any other job. Well, thanks so much for that, Denise. What a wonderful way to spend that time each day. And that's a pretty cool idea, Eric, to have that going on.
I totally agree. Yeah, it just goes to show that the office environment can make such a huge difference in how someone perceives a job, regardless of what they're doing there. Because, as she said, sometimes it was stressful and maybe a little depressing dealing with folks that didn't want that dental care or whatever the issue was there. But she came out of it happy every day because of her coworkers and how the office operated. I think that's an inspiring story.
It is, yeah, and it's such a great tone to set. I really applaud the dentists and those who led, the office team there for having that idea, a pretty ingenious idea of, let's leave as best we can. Let's leave every day on a high note, as well as share that appreciation for each other. So sharing that gratitude, I'm grateful for this today, or I'm grateful for this person, or, for you because of what you do and what you did today. So just sharing that seems like it would be a great morale booster, as well as keeping things as positive as possible. Yeah, in a pretty tough job. I mean, that's another one. You couldn't pay me enough to be a dentist. It's like, there's no frickin' way. I would.
I hear you.
Yeah. I mean, and I know that it's, I've seen some statistics, and every so often they come out with these lists about the jobs that are the most stressful or actually have high suicide rates, and dentist is always way up there. Because, you think about it, it's like, well, who really wants to go see the dentist?
True.
Hardly anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe some people. The cleaning's not so bad.
Well,
but,
I got to say, my dentist seems to be one of the happiest guys that I've ever
That's
met.
good.
So I think it goes both ways. You know, if you've got maybe a good office environment is what might make the difference.
Yeah, could be. Yeah. And if you take, this type of approach, that just helps make everything better. And people just looking forward to going to work no matter what it is.
Right.
But I am always very grateful for people who want to be dentists and doctors and a telemarketer,
Yeah.
these jobs that need doing that I have either no aptitude for or just, no interest in whatsoever.
Well,
So
one thing with dentists, if I could just give
Yeah.
a tip to any dentist listening, you always ask that question, ask questions of the patient as soon as you've got your hands in there or tools in there, and we can't talk.
that's right.
So maybe rhetorical questions is the way to
Why?
go, or just
Yeah.
statements instead of asking
Why the
how
heck
my
is
weekend
that?
was or whatever, because I'm trying to talk where I got the tools in the mouth.
It's like perfect timing. That's like when you get asked a question right when you've put a bite in your mouth.
Right,
It's
exactly.
you, yeah. Well, thanks for that, Eric. And thank you so much, Sandra, Don, and Denise, for sending in your stories. Great to hear them, your perspective, and about your experiences. And remember that if you'd like to submit your best, worst, or first job story or have a career transition question for me, you can send it to reignitinyou@gmail.com or give me a call at 360-436-6496. That's 360-436-6496 to leave it over voicemail for me, and then I'll share it on the air. Well, it's time for today's Reignition recommendation, your weekly career transition tip, and that's to use this season of renewal and reemergence to try something new, whether it's forming a new networking relationship, taking on a new hobby, learning a new tool or about a new topic of interest, or simply taking a new approach to tackle a problem or something that's been weighing on you. Spring is a great time to spring forward with our lives too, not just what it says on the clock. So, thanks, Eric, for your participation and support today, as always. Hope you enjoyed the stories from the listeners, the news items today.
Absolutely. I love hearing inspiring stories of people that enjoy their work.
Me too. Always a lot of fun. And I find it very energizing and uplifting. So definitely a bit of inspiration there. As a reminder, if you'd like to experience working with me, I am offering a career transition strategy session for 2 hours. That's a special I'm running until next Thursday, so just about a week to go, where you can receive a $200 discount to work with me and kind of dip a toe in the water, especially if you haven't worked with a coach like me before. And you've got a particular aspect of career transition you'd like to work on. And you can go to yournewaspect.com to check that out and find me on my website, yournewaspect.com. Well, join us next week when my guest will be speaker, author, and coach Leslie Koch as we talk about our relationship with money and how it influences the decisions we make and how we see ourselves, especially as it relates to career moves. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next week on Reigniting You.